Hey, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask Councillor Slipchuk to say a prayer this morning.
Lord, we thank you for this day you give us today. Pray you comfort us, keep us, and give us wisdom and guidance as we go forward. And just thank you for all your blessings, and pray for the farmers and all for their crops and everything. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councillor Slipchuk. Any additions to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, I just need a motion, please. Thank you, Councillor Crick. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Sorry? Oh, sorry, guys. Yeah, I forgot. All right, it's carried. Thank you. Need the adoption of the minutes, regular meeting of council, May 11, 2022.
Make a motion, we adopt the minute.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Slipchuk. All in favor? Oh, sorry. Oh, I did it again. Jeez. I think it's faster the other way. Okay, if I do it third time, someone throws something at me. Ben?
My voting is not working, so.
Oh, still said you voted yes, so good
Yeah.
job. Oh, you're still down? Yeah.
I'll try again.
Okay, we're all going to vote with the computer except for Deputy Reeve Fidea. He has to lift his hand. All right, also need a motion for committee meeting, council, May 18th, 2022. Yeah, thank you, Councillor Scarson.
Or Swaggers, or whatever your name is.
Sorry.
You all look alike.
Man, I'm not batting too good today. Did they come up yet? Okay, carried. Any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, on to 7, development application 7.1. Looks good, nice hairdo.
Thanks.
Mike has no hair, so it's tough for him too.
This is development permit application 2022-D-055. The applicant is Darcy Ledrew. The applicant is applying for a guest ranch use for an outfitter lodge. The property is located 200 feet west of the intersection of Range Road 432 and Township Road 630. Adjacent properties are quarter sections, 2 of which are leased land and the remainder of an 80-acre split. The applicant is the operator of Ghost Timber Outfitters. They offer whitetail deer hunts, black bear, and waterfowl hunts. They also offer and would like to expand their fishing charters. They have 3 accommodation units in the house and proposed 2 units in a new garage with a suite. They have a cook, a cleaner, and 1 to 2 guides on staff dependent on the demand. The applicant is a member in good standing of the Alberta Professional Outfitter Society. Game processing occurs primarily at Hamels in Cold Lake. Referrals were sent to the Regional Health Authority and the Fire Authority for comment. Adjacent landowner letters were sent out April 23rd, 2022, and we received no comments. Recommendation for development application number 2022-D-055 is to approve the request for a guest ranch use for an outfitter lodge as a discretionary use as per Part 6, Section 34 of the General Regulations, and Part 7, Section 69.2 of the Land Use Bylaw with the following conditions. Development to be located as per the minimum setbacks in agricultural district. An approved building permit is required as per the Safety Codes Act. Applicable gas, electrical, plumbing, and sewer permits are required as per the Alberta Safety Codes Act. Building waste materials shall be contained on-site in a waste bin or a covered/enclosed trailer as per Section 3 of the nuisance bylaw number 981. As per Section 34 of the land use bylaw number 1667. Bed and breakfast and guest ranch. The operator of the bed and breakfast or guest ranch establishment must be a permanent resident of the single detached dwelling, and the bed and breakfast or guest ranch must be secondary to the residential or agricultural use. The maximum number of commercial accommodation units shall be 8. No accommodation units shall include a kitchen. All bed and breakfast or guest ranch establishments must meet public health regulations and be kept in a manner satisfactory to the health authority. Only one bed and breakfast or guest ranch establishment shall be allowed per lot. Any outfitting or guiding activities shall be undertaken by an outfitter guide registered with the Alberta Professional Outfitter Society and hold all applicable licenses and insurance as per the Wildlife Act. Shall comply with all regulations, applicable provincial and federal regulations, including but not limited to the Alberta Hunting Regulations, the Wildlife Act, and the Firearms Act. Occupant load inspection and certificate shall be obtained from the fire authority prior to use.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Deputy Reed?
Good morning. So there will be no hunting down on this property, just the bed and breakfast and the accommodations, right?
Yeah. Through the Reeve to Councillor Fadeev. That is correct. He is taking hunting activities off-site.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Just a que-
Councillor Swire.
Just a question about natural gas. That area maybe has problems with natural gas. Is that part of their permitting that they should apply and be approved or whatever? Do you know? Do you know if they have
Through the
natural
Reeve
gas?
to Councillor Swigert. That should not be considered in this application.
No, I'm
but-
just curious if if they realize that they may not have access to gas, or do you know if they do have? 'Cause-
They do have alternative options aside from natural gas.
No, I
There
realize
is
that, yeah,
propane as well.
thanks. I know, just we've had issues in the past with natural gas, and hopefully they're aware of it. Thank you.
It looks like it's already established, most of it, isn't it?
Well, it's not all established because they still have to build, they're applying right now for a permit for one of the buildings
But it
apparently.
looks like there's quite a few buildings there already.
And,
looks like.
and I'm not sure if they have natural gas right now, I guess, because
Yeah,
other
but it's
folks don't. but-
Nothing to do with us, I guess. right
No,
now.
it doesn't, but we've brought up in the past about people applying for buildings and that sort of thing. We approve it, and then down the road, they realize, oh, shoot, we can't get it.
No gas.
So
yeah.
anyway, I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Councillor Swire, for making the motion. The motion is that council approves development permit application number 2022D055, a guest ranch use for outfitter lodge in southeast of 363-3 west of the 4th M as discretionary use pursuant to Part 6, Section 34 of the General Regulations and Part 7, Section 69.2 of the Land Use Bylaw for Darcy Ledrew on behalf of Solige and Robert Ledrew as per the recommendation presented. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Mr. Reeve,
Yes.
we've had discussions in previous about permitting and the lack of natural gas in the area.
Carried.
And so I'm just curious, though, are we,
Thank you.
there was discussion with planning that maybe we notify people somehow that,
Maybe she has an answer to this.
Through the Reeve to Councillor Swigert. Yes, we do discuss this with applicants when they come in. We actually have changed our development permit to have a section that says, have you discussed servicing requirements with your providers? So we are making them aware before development applications are submitted that servicing issues could be a concern.
okay, because I did see that in here. There's a checklist for that. It wasn't checked. So anyway, that was just a point. I think it's going to come up again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. On to number 8, subdivision applications, 8.1. Morning.
Good morning. Subdivision application 2022-S-003 for Pelham. Pursuant to the Municipal Government Act, would you like me to read that entire portion for you, gentlemen? So it reads, pursuant to the Municipal Government Act, all municipalities shall or must establish a bylaw, a subdivision authority that reviews and deliberates subdivision applications. Council recently passed bylaw number 1794 that designated council as a subdivision authority for the MD of Bonnyville. This application proposes to subdivide one 10-acre parcel from a previously unsubdivided agricultural quarter section. The subject site is located east of Chicken Hill Lake on Township Road 592 and Range Road 474. The application meets all requirements of the Municipal Government Act, subdivision and development regulations, the Lower Athabasca Regional Plan, Municipal Development Plan, and the Land Use Bylaw. Therefore, we recommend it be approved as per the following conditions. Legal and physical access to proposed parcel and remnant. If subdivision is to be registered by plan of survey, a 17-foot strip on the north side to be dedicated by separate road plan. If subdivision is registered by descriptive plan, the owner shall enter into a land acquisition agreement for 17-foot strip along the north side, and for the taxes to be paid in full.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Cravia.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. Yeah, I'll make the motion to approve this as per conditions.
Thank you, Councillor Cravia, for making a motion that council approves subdivision applications number 2022-S-003 to subdivide one 10-acre parcel from the previous unsubdivided agricultural quarter section in northeast 859-7 west of the 4th M for Bradley and Catherine Pelham as per the conditions presented. Any discussion? Yes, Deputy Reeve Fadea.
So in your map, you have a line, like a yellow line in there. Could you tell me what that yellow line is for?
Can we go back to that, Jolie?
It's an abandoned pipeline.
That's a pipeline that goes through there. So notifications have been sent out to CNRL, which is the proprietor of that line. They had no concerns.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Any other discussion, gentlemen? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. On to 8.2.
Subdivision application 2022-S-004. This application proposes to subdivide one 5-acre parcel from a previously fragmented agricultural quarter section. The subject site is located west of the village of Glendon on Range Road 485, west of Range Road 610A. This application meets all considerations of the Municipal Government Act, subdivision and development regulations, and the Lower Athabasca Regional Plan, Municipal Development Plan, and the Land Use Bylaw. Therefore, we recommend it be approved as per conditions. Legal and physical access to proposed parcels and remnant, cash in lieu, real property report, septic compliance with the Alberta Safety Codes and Public Health Act, and taxes to be paid in full.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. I'll make the motion to approve this one as well as per conditions.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Krivak, for making the motion for council, that council approves subdivision application number 2022-004 to subdivide one 5-acre parcel from a previously fragmented agricultural quarter section in northeast of 661 and 8 west of the 4th M for Priscilla Kwiatkowski as per the conditions presented. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
gentlemen.
Yes, Lisa.
Just a quick question. How do I ask if someone, just when they vote no, I'll just announce it on the screen? Yeah, I know. So I just announce it 6-1 or 5-2? Okay. Call the vote? Okay. Thanks, Mike. Okay. Okay, on to new business. 9.2. Morning.
Morning, council.
Morning.
So we're going to break this up in a few different parts. I'll start off with ag services, and I'll get Brad Olin to come up for waste services, and then Charlene Skinner for public safety. Okay, just starting off with weed control mowing. Seasonal staff has started over at the shop. Maintenance has been completed on all the pieces of equipment ready for the busy mowing season. Staff are also conducting inspections over at the seed cleaning plant, so being the busy season at the seed cleaning plants, they'll be doing samples there. So they meet the minimum of 20 samples. And also just going through waiting for a little bit of equipment because of shortage for new equipment coming in. Rental equipment, that's all been delivered to all of our satellite stations throughout the MD. We still have one at Therian, one at Iron River, and then Cherry Grove area. And the rental equipment's been really busy since seeding's been started. Rat and rabies program, so the first inspections have been completed for the rat control program along the first range. And we actually have sent already some skunks in for testing of rabies. This will be the last year of the rabies program, how we see it right now. The province will be scaling back because they feel that the rabies are not a threat at this time, but we will continue for the season. As for beavers, our pest control officer's been out doing some beaver calls, maintenance on culverts, trying to get those numbers under control, but a little less problems this year with lack of runoff. So, but they've just been starting to work on their what they call the pond levelers. So that's the pipe that goes on a beaver dam where it keeps on flowing without have to blasting the beaver dam open or opening it up with track hose. So it's one of the things we've tried over the years. It's a little maintenance getting them going in the spring, but once they're working, they'll work all season long without have to going back and forth. Pest calls, coyote predation, we've had a little bit up in that Cherry Grove, or excuse me, LaCourrier area this spring with coyotes eating calves. I know one farmer lost 4 calves, and the other one had some harassment, so we issued some poison. On public engagement, we are hosting a workshop in June 23rd in Fort Kent, and it's going to be a little bit on weeds, a little disease in trees, and some other pests, and also focus on white cockle. We do have a white cockle program, or problem within the MD, and try to educate the farmers on that. Sheltered Belt Tree Program, it was very successful again this year, and tree pickup day is coming up in the next couple days. Chem Jug Recycling Program, we found out earlier this year that Clean Farms is changing the program, so instead of having the disposal sites that belong kind of to the MD, they're pushing this back to the retail sites. So it'll stay within the people that are selling the chemical will then have to take back the chemical jugs. So that transition will start at the end of the year for the Goodridge site, and then next year for the Bonnyville site at the seed cleaning plant. The wild boar program, the province came out with a new program this spring for wild boars, try to have an incentive for any producers or any people that see a boar. We're pretty fortunate that we don't have any wild boars within the MD at this time, but we did sign on it just in case. Other than that, we did do seeding at the shop quarter we had some issues with it last year, so we seeded it down this spring, did some rock picking, so that's completed this week. And then also the scales were recertified at the seed cleaning plant. So Any questions on the ag side before I bring up Brad?
Yeah, I got a question. You were mentioning about piping in the dams. Can you explain that? Like, when and how long you guys been doing that? Like, I
We've
never
been
even heard
probably
this.
doing multiple different techniques at beaver dams for the past 5 years. So the pond leveler that I'm speaking about is about a 6-inch pipe that goes on the high water side. And then it just goes slightly, they kind of bury it just over the top of the dam, and then on the lower side, so it just works as a siphon system. So the beavers don't plug it up. As long as you don't have a large volume of water that needs to move and kind of erode, it works really good. It just the beavers can't figure out how to plug it up, and so you always have a 6-inch pipe flowing water all the time instead of backing up. So sometimes what the beavers will do, they don't understand it, they'll just keep on building the dam higher, but the water doesn't get any higher. So we have a few different techniques that we try all the time to try to outsmart the beavers and try to lessen our day-to-day costs, so we're not have to use dynamite, we don't have to get a traco in there, so.
Thank you, Councillor Sawyer.
Yeah, Mr. Jones, just a question about the Big Beaver Dam again. That's on Highway 28, east of Ardmore, kind of around Alexander. It's on the First Nations Reserve. We've in the past, we've cleared that one. Are we going to do that again, or is that something we leave to the First Nations, or does?
Yeah, through the reef to Councillor Swigert. So, yeah, that is on First Nations land. In the past, they've contacted us for assistance. We make sure that everything's good. We get approval to do so, work on there. At this time, we haven't been asked this year to help out at all. We've done some work right underneath that little trestle bridge that's there right on Municore. We helped out Municore with that in the past because we're in charge of the maintenance. But yeah, we haven't, I see the water's right up on the edge of Highway 28 and it's probably going to soften it. But yeah, we have not been approached by Alberta Transportation or Cold Lake First Nations yet.
Okay, thank you.
Another question I got asked is about the chemical jug return, going back to the retailers. Have you got any feedback from the farmers on that or concerns? And also at our current facility where they are dumping the jugs at the seed plant, we're going to have to do an environmental study and a cleanup on that, I assume, in the near future.
Yeah, so through the reef to Councillor Slipchuk. So we did put up the signage here about probably 6 weeks ago to advise people what's happening so they're aware of it. So I haven't received any calls as feedback yet. But I haven't talked to the places where they haven't decided what retailers are actually going to be taking back the chemical jugs. So once they figure out that, we can educate them on what's been done in the past for ground monitoring to make sure that they keep an eye on any spills. And as for reclamation, the province is supposed to come out with some plans on what they're going to do for testing. We do have some ground monitoring wells there that have been tested in the past, and yeah, they'll go from there. So where the site sits in Bonnyville is on the seed cleaning plant property, which is owned by them. We just maintain it. So when the shed was put up there before my time, probably in the early 90s, I would say, it was a government grant given to the municipality. It was decided best place at that time was to put it there. So yeah, we haven't heard any details on the cleanup yet.
Thank you.
Sure. Yep.
Thanks, Ben. The last time, a few years back, how did we get back to the government to get strychnine back approved? And then they shut it down. So how can we get that reactivated, or what's the process?
Through the reef. So there's been many letters sent by every province and every municipality and provinces to send letters to PMRA. They are the regulatory body for any of the chemicals, and strychnine being one. So it was reinstated 10 years ago. They did put it on a 5-year kind of list of where you look after 5 years. That 5 years came and went. They did do another short-term approval. And then 4 years ago, they decided to take it off again. So letters to PM Ray, there was a window that people could comment when they did deregulate it, but that's come and gone. So I know there's still letters going out from municipalities. There's still resolutions at every Ag Service Board conference. I believe even the RMA conference sometimes does have the letters trying to reinstate strychnine, but at this time,
No
PMRA
go.
is not looking at it. So I believe this year, 2022, is the last year, if you do have it in your possession, that you can use strychnine. But yeah, there's no more development of strychnine, so.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, looking for a motion?
There's a couple more
Oh,
reports.
okay, sorry. Oh, sorry.
I don't know, I have to apologize, I'm hard of hearing, but I have some questions. I'm Gustafson is my name, I'm the owner of the Northwest 78.
Yeah, that's coming up at 10 o'clock, sir. Yeah.
Oh, that's not till 10 o'clock.
Yes, yeah.
I couldn't hear a thing, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I should turn my mic on and speak a little louder, then you could probably hear. I'll let you know though, sir, okay? Yeah, right on. Good morning.
Good morning, Council. I'm here to present the quarterly waste report. So for metal recycling, K&K Prairie Recycling Services collected metal from all the landfills in January. A request for proposals for a new 3-year contract for metal recycling was advertised in March, and since then, just recently has been awarded to K&K Prairie Recycling Services for another 3-year term. For electronics recycling, as of January 2022, Techno Trash and Tabor will be our electronics recycling processor and collector as well. Techno Trash is also the collector of our mattresses and the processor there as well in Tabor. So this relationship will provide some efficiencies to our operations. The electronics recycling pilot project, which included roughly 600 extra electronic items, concluded March 31st. So as of April 1st, counting and sorting of our electronics is no longer required, which will be a benefit to the operations team. Currently, all electronics are hauled back to our shop yard and shipped out from there to keep the landfills tidy for our residents. With the agricultural plastics pilot program, that program was extended from original end date of April 1st, 2022 to August 31st of 2023. Bale wrap continues to constitute the majority of the recyclable material collected in the MD here. Again, Clean Farms has donated a compactor to the MD to use for compacting our bale wrap, as a market for that material has developed in BC. With annual reports, so we submitted the 2021 annual landfill reports to Alberta Environment and Parks in March. The annual reports consisted of consolidated annual reports for each of the 7 active landfills, as well as the 5 closed landfill sites. And then also with those reports was the groundwater monitoring program reports for the 12 total landfill sites. As far as capital purchases, an 8 by 20 foot sea can was ordered from Custom Cubes in Edmonton for the Muriel Lake landfill. So that's being built currently. And a 14-foot dump trailer was ordered as per specifications from Pioneer Off-Road in Bonnyville here. And last but not least, bin site removal. So the bin site located behind the Riverhurst Hall was removed April 13th, with signage placed 2 weeks earlier to give residents notice of removal of the bins. Signage was also placed directing residents to use the Hilda Lake landfill for their waste disposal needs.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Yes, Councillor Fadave. Oh, sorry, Deputy Reeve Fadave.
Thank you, Mr. Olin. So in regards to the bale wrap, so Clean Farms gave us what again?
Through the Reeve, so Clean Farms donated to us a compactor. So the bale wrap comes loosely bagged, and that bale wrap needs to be compacted for efficient shipping. So they donated to us a compactor to use for that program.
So are we seeing an increase in bale wrap coming into us?
Yeah, there's been a slight increase. It constitutes the majority of the product that comes in, along with net wrap, unfortunately.
Okay. So my second question is in regards to the bin. I'm still getting quite a few concerned citizens in around that. We're using the site, and they're looking for, I guess, different solutions from us. And told them that it's on a year study, and a lot of people still aren't happy with it because it's not, I guess alleviating their problems right now, higher fuel costs, being that, Hill Lake's only open for, 3 days a week. Are you seeing the same kind of concerns?
Through the Reeve, I've received 13 calls so far from concerned residents, noting their concerns of the removal of the bins, and jotting those down, and when council requests that information, we can come back to council.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions, Darcy? Yeah. Councilor,
Yeah,
Schwartz?
so I'm just curious on the CCAN office. I thought we weren't allowed to put a CCAN there, and then I thought that we had awarded that to a local contractor to build the office there.
So through the Reeve to Councillor Scarson, we went back and put a request for tender for a CCAN office back in January for that. The original tender that we put out for a stick build unit, they all came back over budget. So it was recommended to us to go back and look at a CCAN.
Am I the only one to remember that wrong? I thought we weren't allowed to put a CCAN there. Isn't that what you guys were saying?
There was a CCAN that didn't meet specifications that we had looked at originally, and so by building one from scratch, or having a company build one to our specifications, then we would be okay.
And then I thought we had awarded
I thought we awarded something too.
it was $28,000 to,
I thought it was insane how much
Yeah.
we, and then I thought it was an ATCO building that they wouldn't accept at that time, but maybe wasn't it an ATCO building?
Maybe
that
it was
they
ATCO,
wouldn't?
yeah.
No, we did approve that.
A building for,
Yeah.
I thought we did. I guess. We didn't, Al? You don't remember?
Through the Reeve, to council, my recollection was the original tenders on the original building that had been planned for came in over budget. There was some discussion about the expense. I think the question about the CCAN itself was just plunking a CCAN out there wouldn't have been appropriate for somebody to be working in. But with some research, I know Matt and his team were able to find a company that makes CCANs specifically for offices for landfill, construction sites, oil field purposes. So this came in significantly cheaper and met all of the requirements. I don't recall the exact price, but
I
maybe.
just asked Matt here, didn't we?
well, I'm telling you, like, I'm
Yeah.
just, I mean, it's great that you found a cheaper option. I'm just curious though, because I know we approved Ted Unruh contracting and it was
thought we
high,
did.
but I guess I'm just curious as to, you could just go ahead and do whatever after we make a motion, right? So,
So it wasn't approved because it was over budget, so it had to go back to administration to something to fit into budget that also fit within our development plan. So the CCAN did fit, this CCAN did fit because it was built to our spec and it was engineered. Cost a little bit more money to have it engineered, but it did meet through planning development all the permits. It did fit within budget. So we talked with the CAO, and because there was no motion made to say on the stick build within budget, so.
I remember that completely different, but maybe I'm out to lunch.
Yeah, I do too, so, sorry. We can look at it after
Yeah.
though, okay? Thank you. Yeah, sorry, Councillor Crick?
Yeah, one other question on the metal recycling from the landfills. Is that a cost to us as an MD, or is that an income?
Through the Reeve to Councillor Crick, we receive $40 per ton for that material, and we incur no costs. So there's approximately 200 units requiring CFC removal per year at the landfills, and we incur no costs for that service.
Councillor Swager?
Sorry, Mr. Olin, hate to beat this one up, but also I'm getting phone calls, of course, about the bin site that was removed from Riverhurst. Yeah, so council made that decision to trial something for a year. I guess now sort of thinking about it, the something, I'm not sure what it was, because all we've done really is left these folks without a bin site. So unfortunately, I guess my thought at the time was, when we made that motion to not put it into River Haven, to the gravel pit, I mean, I guess in my mind, I thought, okay, I'm relieved because those, you know, those folks aren't having to put up with it. But on the flip side of it, then we removed all the bin sites, so nobody out there has any place to go except Hilda, basically, and it's not, you know, it's like, what, 14 or 15 kilometer kind of one way for a lot of folks, and so we made that decision, but to do nothing for a year doesn't seem like we're not piloting anything, all we're doing is leaving these folks without a bin for a year. So I'm not sure what we do. I think maybe we might have to revisit this before a year's up, because it's kind of leaving a lot of folks without anything. And, you know, maybe you think, well, what did they do 20 years ago before they had a bin at Riverhurst or whatever, but it's not 20 years ago anymore. So anyway, just discussion, because we're getting lots of calls. Thanks.
Deputy Reeve Fadave.
Yeah, I just want to kind of comment again. This wasn't in Rivenhaven subdivision. It was a half a mile south of it in a gravel pit. And there's also permitting done there for a camp. And again, our guys do an amazing job with the sites, and we will plant trees. And I mean, this is a public highway or a public road that the MD maintains, and I still think it's a great spot for it.
Well, we can definitely revisit it, and we're going to have to. So, Al, we'll bring it up on another. Do we have any? Are we done with
Well, through the Reeve to council, a couple of issues arise with this. First of all, procedure bylaw does require 6 months from the last resolution.
Yes.
Staff brought all of the pros and the cons. We thought we had the perfect solution was to move the bin sites to the old gravel pit and create a bin site there that would have been, however, due to some pushback from a few of the local residents, they didn't want it there. Riverhurst was not working anymore for us. Council passed the resolution to do a 1-year trial at Hilda Lake. It would be up to council what council wants to do with it, but there is a procedural issue in that the procedure bylaw does indicate that we can't revisit the same motion within a 6-month period.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cravia.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. To CEO, isn't there something that we can suspend procedural bylaw?
In the procedure bylaw, you can suspend the rules. That is certainly up to council if council wanted to do that, and then council could direct us where council would like the bin sites to go again. If they don't want them in Hilda Lake, the question for council is where do you want them? We offered the quarter section of land across from Riverhaven. It would have been what we thought was probably the perfect site. It would cost us very little money to set up. We own the land. It's off of an MD road. So if this comes back to council, we don't have a lot more information to provide other than where does council want this bin site to go? That really is the number one question for council.
And it's not across, it's kitty corner, isn't it? Is it right across or kitty corner?
It was going to be, it's kitty corner, and
Yeah.
it was going to be put on the backside, probably the southeast corner, or deep into the quarter
Yeah,
section.
yeah.
I would also point out, and I believe Councillor Verde have also mentioned it, that there is also straight south in the quarter section adjacent to the Riverhaven, there's a
Big campsite.
a camp that's been approved by the MD. So I think a small bin site would have been less obtrusive than that camp would be.
Well, that campsite's been there before, hasn't it?
Yeah,
Like
yes, it has.
it's ongoing, on and off.
So if council would like to suspend the rules and have this brought back inside the 6 months, that's entirely up to council. We would just be looking for direction from council as to where do you want this bin site to go then?
Yes, Councillor Swigert.
Yeah, I'd also like, and I'd mentioned this before to Mr. Yance there, but I'd like Edmund to kind of take a look at, like, putting a pin on a map and putting a circle to say, well, how far should we expect folks to drive, you know, for any location to any bin site, not just in this one, but unfortunately, Hilda Lake is fair distance for most people. It's not, you know, it's just not, it's great for people that live along that road by Hilda, but there's so few people out there. It's not really a great location. But if you kind of marked, you know, said put a pin there, draw a circle, how far should people actually go, you know, to drop waste? I don't know if that helped. Maybe the Riverhaven site is the site. I just not sure. Anyway, thanks.
Yeah, Al?
Through the Reeve, to council, a decision on what distance residents should travel is really a council decision in terms of what level of service do you want to provide in terms of bin sites. The River Haven location, or on our quarter section across from River Haven, was literally 3/4 of a mile away from the current site. So if that's the level of service, that would have been fine. We didn't have any other real good choices. We own the land, and in terms of trying to do things as fiscally prudent as possible, it seemed to be a natural for that bin site. Once council determined they didn't want to go to River Haven or to our land across from River Haven, we didn't really have left a lot of options other than going out and trying to purchase land, which didn't seem to make a lot of sense given that we actually own a quarter section of land. So we can certainly, if council would like to direct us to bring it back at a future council meeting, and then council can certainly take the whatever action they'd like through the procedure bylaw to suspend the rules, and then bring that question back to the forefront. That's entirely up to council, and we would just be seeking direction as to where would council like that bin site to go.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No, I need a motion, I believe. Yep. Oh, one more yet? I didn't scroll up enough yet? Sorry, you told me there, Matt, there's 3, and I'm jumping the gun here. Sorry.
Morning.
Hey, good morning.
I'm here to present the Public Safety Department's quarterly report from January to March. So the first slide should be preventing crime. We look at how many visits we do within the communities, and many of our crime prevention patrols involve MD property and infrastructure. So we look through visits of where we need to be, what complaints we're getting. So we look at our patrols in the MD. As going through bin sites, we do a lot of patrols there. We get a lot of complaints. Campgrounds, we only have 17 for the first of the year, but that's about to pick up now that we're into summer and everything's into full swing. We have 121 for the town halls, 34 to Canuso, which we've had an increase of patrols through there. They've requested during the ski season just a little bit of extra help in patrolling on the weekends and things like that. Kapala is about to drop off. I hope I'm saying that right. So that's about to drop off. It is now in the hands of the fire department, and they will be taking care of that, BRFA. Landfills, we do a lot of patrols there as well, just to check in to make sure that our other employees are getting the help they need if there's people in there causing issues and going through trash and through metal and things like that, which we often get complaints about. We have a focus on industry, so we partner with CNRL, Baytex, Husky, Synovus, and Imperial Oil to deliver patrol services on the well sites and the service roads. In the first quarter of 2022, we delivered 327 hours of patrol service to our industry partners on a fee-for-service basis. During those patrols, we run into dealing with a lot of commercial vehicles. We do get a lot of speeding complaints as well with general people going to work in the mornings. Sometimes it's hard to pull them over if there's a lot of flow of traffic, so we just try to be there for safety. So many of our peace officers are trained to inspect commercial vehicles for safety violations. During the first quarter of 2022, the MD peace officers conducted 87 commercial vehicle inspections, resulting in 37 trucks being pulled from out of service. So when we say out of service, it could be a minor infraction of a blown tire, so things that need to be fixed before they can resume their journey. So we put them, or we guide them to a safe area so that they can fix the minor defects that are on the roadside. And if they can't fix the defects, then usually the company will go out and have them towed or make arrangements for the load that they're carrying. A lot of common things that we find are loose chains or loads, tires are underinflated, leaking air lines, road use violations, bald or worn tires, and overweight vehicles are very common. So the types of tickets versus warnings during the first quarter of 2022, we have 154 provincial tickets. We have 234 warnings, and we have 10 bylaw tickets. So the tickets themselves are usually in conjunction with many warnings, especially on commercial vehicles. We try not to go out and nail them with a whole bunch of different tickets. We try to educate, because we want people to be safe on the roads, so that's usually our main goal, is to go out and educate and lay fines if we have to. So we try to up our fines lately, but a lot of things that we're dealing with is usually, again, commercial vehicles with probably 3 or 4 different tickets that could be laid, and we don't want to damage our economy now that it's starting to come back up. So our locations of patrol by time, kilometers, and location, we look at our wards. We have Ward 1 with 2,714 hours of patrol. Ward 1 always sees a major
Oh,
increase.
yeah, I just.
Major
seemed like
increase, that's 3/4 of it right there.
That's a lot
Yeah.
of time spent in one area.
Being that our office is in that area, so that's why the increase is there. Usually if we're in Ward 1, it's usually we're going back and forth to the office, so we do hit Ward 1 quite a lot. That includes 2,063 visits. Ward 2, we have 327 hours with 7,703 kilometers covered, which is 883 visits. Ward 3, we have 122 hours with 6,762 kilometers, 295. I'm sorry?
Very quiet in Ward 3, right?
Yes. Ward 3 is a very good area, but we do still get lots of complaints out in there. Ward 4, 291, which is 10,398 kilometers. It's a big industry area as well, so a lot of times you see an increase for kilometers. It's usually because there's a lot of industry area in that area. And we try to make sure that we're in the areas of concern, especially for our industry partners. So that we have 295 visits there. We look at Ward 5, we have 292 hours, which is 12,355 kilometers, which is 476 visits. Again, we do have a lot of industry as well in Ward 5, north of Highway 55. So we try to make sure that we get to our industry partners according to our contracts. Ward 6, we have 141, with 6,376 kilometers and 511 visits. We wanted to make sure that council notes that we take these information and these numbers back to our staff as well to make sure that any area that seems like it's falling short with hours and time, we want to make sure that our officers are covering those areas. So we do bring this information back at a staff meeting and explain that we'd like more coverage. So Glendon, we have 74 hours, 658 kilometers, and 177 visits. We have Ardmore with 122 hours, 295 kilometers with 795 visits. Cherry Grove, we have 6 with 276 kilometers and 36 visits. Fort Kent, we have 18 hours with 749 kilometers and 359 visits. The Cherry Grove numbers are a bit low. We will be bringing that back to staff. Fort Kent has seen a rise. We have been dealing with a few break-ins into the mailbox there, so we have been getting a lot of bolos for just making sure we're driving through at specific hours, just so you're aware of that situation. So our incident numbers by year in first is if you look at the graph that's made there, 2019 to 2022, you see that we have an increase in dog control and livestock complaints. Unsightly property, we only received 1 for the 3 months. Parking is an increase up to 10. Noise and disturbance is 4. ATV, snowmobile, we have only received 1.
Talk about disturbances.
Garbage and loose loads, we have 51. And traffic complaints, we've had 7. So our first quarter, we received 120 complaints as opposed to, if you look at 2019 to 2021, it's up a little bit. So the next slide shows Petty Trespass Act. Our peace officers can enforce the Petty Trespass Act, which deals primarily with rule violators trespassing on vacant land. During the first quarter of 2022, we investigated 2 trespassing incidents within the MD of Bonnyville. Our community standards is MD residents are entitled to live in a safe, health, and productive neighborhoods. During the first quarter of 2022, our officers responded to 3 unsightly property complaints. We expect these numbers to climb as the spring, summer progress. We do have properties that we usually visit every year, and we continue to just make sure that if they are the problem properties that we've dealt with year after year, that we are dealing with them early in the season so we can prevent the complaints from coming in. We have a focus on our dog safety. There are 887 licensed dogs in the MD and likely more unlicensed. In 2021, the Public Safety Department responded to 144 dogs related to complaints and laid 42 charges under the municipal bylaw. During the first quarter of 2022, officers responded to 43 calls for service concerning dogs, several of which are still under investigation. We do have a focus on school, for kids in school. So the school resource officers delivered 398 presentations with 7,100 students during the first quarter of 2022. The serviced areas are 23 schools and 3 school divisions in order to complete their mandates in 2022. Do you have any questions?
Yes, Deputy Reeve Fideo.
Good morning. So you guys do a lot of activity with the bin sites. When will Mr. Owen and the Waste Department start patrolling or stationing people for different bin sites? I know that's been done in the past. I know it's not done in the wintertime, but is it going to be done, and when is it going to be done come summertime?
Through the Reeve to Councillor Fideu, I am unsure if that will be happening this year. So I guess they can answer for you later if that will be happening. I'm unsure. I know it has happened in previous years. There is a number of issues that we are dealing with, but a lot of the issues that we deal with, we go through the Waste Department and it's directed directly to them. So we work together to make sure things are going well.
Thank you. Yeah, my second question is regards to the one of the highest populated areas, which is Ward 6, and there is like this is, I think it's the second time I've noted it. It's the lowest patrolled with the highest activity. I have a lot of people calling me or texting me about concerns of suspicious activities in around the subdivisions outlying the city of Coal Lake. So I just tell them to call the RCMP. So is that I don't know, but with the lack of us patrolling, there's a lot of questions there, but I think there's
I believe that calling the RCMP is one thing, but if we don't know there's an increase of suspicious activity, we can't know to be there. And specific times are important as well so that we can make sure we're in those areas. Our officers are given files based on whether we can do something or not. A lot of times we can't do anything with criminal code, but it doesn't mean we can't patrol, fly the flag, and basically give extra comfort to people in the area. So if we do see something, we would contact the RCMP directly as well.
okay. Thanks.
Councillor Spire.
Yeah, this is going back to your locations patrolled by time, kilometers, and location. It's a nice chart. I just think it's somewhat skewed, maybe, and I'd ask because if we look at Ward 1, and you've already mentioned this, 2,700 hours in Ward 1, because that's where you're stationed. But, yeah, so 2,700 hours, 17,000 kilometers, and 2,063 visits. I'm just curious, maybe the chart isn't quite right in that, like, what constitutes a visit, because it's really high, right? It's like significantly higher. Is it really visits, or you're just passing through and you call it a visit? Because that maybe doesn't, because I think it's skewing your charts a bit. I don't think it's quite fair that.
Through the Reeve to Councillor Weigart. The visits are basically counted by the amount of times a vehicle is in an area. So even if we drive through, the visits are counted through there. A lot of times driving through Ward 1, we do drive through Ward 1 to leave our area as well, and we fan out to go to other wards and areas. So a lot of times those numbers are dramatically skewed because we pass through Ward 1 a lot in order to get to other wards as well. So we try to remain on MD roads. Sometimes we are on the highway, but we try to stay in MD areas where we're most safe. So that's why our numbers, because Ward 1 is like a travel-through area. To come from Ward 6 to go to Ward 3, you have to travel through that area, or you travel up north. A lot of times our industry guys are up north doing their job, so when we're down in the south and we usually just cut through Ward 1, it's easier. It's sometimes quicker if we have different complaints that we need to get to. And that's a lot of time why it constitutes as a lot of visits.
I get it. I just wonder if you could maybe spend some time looking at the stats, and maybe there's a better way to show those, because I mean, I think you're doing a good job. It's skewed, and it's probably shouldn't be skewed. Thanks.
Yeah, look, if you add up everything, it's almost 1,400 for everyone else, and 27, that's
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's,
It is.
everybody else put together is only 1,400, under 1,400. Who had a question here? Counselor Slipchick?
Yeah, I got a couple questions here. On this 87 commercial trucks pulled over, how many of them were oil? Would you know how many of them were oil haulers? I'm not picking on it, it's just that they're spending the most amount of hours on our roads. I'm just
sorry,
curious.
I didn't hear which company.
How many of the 87 commercial vehicles were actual oil haulers pulled over of that number?
Through the Reeve. A lot of the vehicles and to Councillor Slipchuk, a lot of the vehicles that we pull over we don't pick companies, we don't go out there to say, hey, we're using this company or we're going to hit this company. We usually just pull over what's available. We are noting that in the last few months we're having a lot of commercial haulers run stop signs up in Iron River area. We are dealing with was dealing with a complaint of CNRL trucks or companies that are contracted to CNRL running down 470 with night lights on and things like that. So a lot of times we try to be in an area that's highly run by an industry, and the commercial vehicles that we pull over are not by choice. We just pull over when we see an infraction or something that doesn't look safe.
Okay, my other question was your garbage and loose loads jumped to 51 and 22. Is that because we shut down the Riverhurst site? We're hauling to Hilda now, maybe?
So a lot of the garbage and the loose loads that we're dealing with, the garbage itself we've been dealing with a lot of people going through the bin sites, so we do end up dealing with the garbage itself on that side of things. So that's why our numbers have increased there. We've been getting a number of calls for people going through bin sites, and it's very unsafe for them to be in the bins. And then we also have a number of increase because a lot of people are dropping off items that should be dropped off at a landfill.
Right.
So we ask our staff to note it and to make sure that the waste department is aware of it. And we're trying to find solutions as well with the waste department to make it better for everybody in the community.
Yeah, another major issue that we have is going from Cold Lake North to Cold Lake South. They use the back roads, and the stuff is on, it's just sitting on top of the truck, and these guys are doing 80 clicks, and there's mattresses in the ditch and things like that. So that's probably a big part of it as well. People aren't strapping things down, so.
All right. Guess looking for a motion.
I'll try that one again. Are we okay with that one there, Mr. Jones? We're okay now?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve all these reports.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Swigert, for making a motion on behalf of council that council accepts environmental and protective service quarterly reports for January, February, March, and April 2022 as information. Any discussion? We had a lot. Seeing none, all those in favor? Oh. Carried. Yes, go
Hi,
ahead.
Mr. Reeve. I just wanted to respond to Councillor Fadeev's question about the bin site monitoring. So beginning in April, we've had somebody going out 2 times per week to different bin sites just to help educate the residents and, you know, help ensure that the items are being dropped off that are supposed to be dropped off at the bin sites. So,
Awesome, thank you.
you're welcome.
Can we take a 5-minute just before, or does it have to start right at 10? Okay, let's take a 5-minute break. Is that okay, ma'am? Yeah. Thank you. Okay, I'm going into public hearing. I'll open this up, open the hearing. Before we begin public hearing, I'd like to remind those who wish to address any of the public, I'll start that again. Before we begin with public hearing, I would like to remind those who wish to address any of the public hearings on today's agenda to register your name on the speakers list at the entrance of the council chambers, and they have done that already. I would like also to outline the proceeds of the following for this public hearing. We will begin with a presentation from administration, followed by questions of the administration from council. Next, the applicants will have opportunity to provide a presentation, following by questions of the applicant from council. We will then call upon the members of the public who wish to speak in support of the application, followed by those who wish to speak in opposition of the application. The application will then be provided an opportunity to review anything that they have heard or read in opposition of their application. Finally, we will entertain any final questions of administration from council before closing the public hearing. May I have a motion to begin public?
Sure, I'll make the motion, Mr. Reeve.
Thank you, Councillor Kraviak. All in favor? Oh, carried. Okay, go ahead.
So this is a public hearing for bylaw number 1798, road closure, cancellation, and sale. Pursuant to Part 7, Section 2301A of the Municipal Government Act, before giving second reading to a proposed road closure, cancellation, and sale bylaw, council must hold a public hearing. Bylaw number 1798 for provincial road allowance closure, cancel, and sale, which would authorize the closure, cancellation, and sale of a portion of provincial road allowance approximately 176 meters in length west of Southwest 21 and Northwest 1662-8 west of the 4th Meridian as per the legal description in Appendix A. It is to be used for access to Northwest 1662-8 west of the 4th Meridian from a proposed subsequent subdivision of Southeast 20-62-8 west of the 4th Meridian, and consolidation of that subdivision and the portion of road allowance into the northwest quarter. Bylaw 1798 was given first reading by council on April 13th, 2022. So attached for council's information is the drafted bylaw 1798, which has received first reading, and supporting maps. As well, in Appendix B is a map of the proposed subsequent subdivision and consolidation. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Swire?
Mr. Reeve, are we allowed to ask questions of admin?
Yes?
Could you bring that map up, or the map up that shows, you said that we want to close that subdivision, or that road allowance, but it's gonna give access from Southeast 2062-8 west of the 4th to Northwest 1662-8 west of the 4th? Is that?
That is correct.
So it's gonna give that access. Okay, well, talk more, because I think I've got other questions, but thanks.
Any other questions, admin?
Mr. Reeve, yeah, there's access for the other quarters on Township 622 to the south and 624 to the north. This is a forest road, so there is access to the other quarters from the other roads.
Yes, sorry, Deputy Reeve Fadeev?
So I'm going to ask the obvious question. So why was that road forced to begin with?
Through the Reeve, I understand that CNRL, I believe believe it was CNRL, it could be a different leaseholder, but they did have a development up farther about middle of the southeast quarter. So they were using the road through that kind of follows along what would be Township 623, and they did a makeshift road along that border.
So then that site is abandoned now? Or not
Correct.
abandoned, but
Yes.
closed? Is it? Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Just-
Counselor
just for
Swigert.
clarification there, Mr. Reeve, I'm not sure if I'm still following this. So road allowance 484, apparently it's impassable at that spot. But you're saying it's going to allow them access across there. So if it's impassable, how did they get access? I'm missing this. And I guess my concern is I would have no question or no concerns about leasing them a road allowance, but when you sell off a road allowance, it's gone forever sort of thing, and maybe it'll never be used, but I still don't understand why we don't just lease it.
Yeah, Al?
Jolene, can you please pull
Oh,
up
sorry.
Appendix B?
Go ahead.
Through the Reeve, on to council, 484 south of the property would never, it would be a Herculean effort to build a road, particularly to the south. So there would be, I can't foresee a time in the future where there would be a road built through that ravine.
Mr. Reeve?
Yes.
Yeah,
Counselor.
484 goes north from Glendon, Highway 882. Then when you cross 660, it's 484 Range Road. It goes 6 miles to a T. If you were to keep going north, there's a huge ravine there.
Yeah.
Before that little small piece requested to be sold off. And if you go north of that, there's also a big ravine there with the Beaver River. So that would never be developed. The ravines are really huge. There's no need for that road allowance as well, to be built for a future road.
That's the same ravine where there's a grave site there, and if you're standing in the grave site, it's like a super valley down there. Is that correct? Yeah. No? Okay. All right, any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I got one other
Okay,
question. here.
Counselor Crick?
So is that going to interfere, like if people, because every other time we've done road closures and stuff, people are still allowed to use the road allowance, right? Is this going to, public still going to be allowed to access that road allowance if they want to go hiking or drive a quad through there or anything else, or not?
Through the Reeve, so the portion of the road which will be closed and sold would not be open for public. It would be given to the person who buys it. So the remaining portions to the north and to the south would remain open to the public,
Yeah.
but that one portion, it would still remain a provincial road allowance, but that portion would be sold and become a part of their property.
So people wouldn't be able to get through north to south then if they wanted? Okay.
Not on the straight route, no, not if someone was traveling along there. However, at the bottom, on the southmost portion of the portion that we would wish to close and sell,
Yep.
as the CAO commented, it is a very steep ravine. And if there's travel along, it would be very difficult to have travel along that provincial road allowance currently, just based on the terrain. The applicant is, and I'm sure they'll speak to it. However, so the southeast quarter is their land, and then the quarter on this, I can't remember which one it is, but the one where the bottom southwest portion of that road allowance, which we want to close, we're connecting to where they would like to build a residence in that other quarter.
Yeah, Counselor Swigert?
Just clarification also on Township Road 623, so they're actually buying that road allowance too then, are they?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Township Road 623.
Mm-hmm.
That red section encompasses that entire quarter of that township road. So that's also, am I missing this? Because that's also a township road.
So through the Reeve, it is not a township road. It is a forest road.
Oh, so 623 isn't, so 623 was...
623 ends on the Range Road where you see it, on that Range Road.
Okay,
there.
so what's the definition of, like, because I thought a 623 was, oh, that would be a forest road, because it should have been, there shouldn't be a 623, should there? Okay, so we have the same issue, then people could not access that, they couldn't go east to west either, though, because we're selling their road allowance, which was a forced road allowance. Anyway, just bring that up too, thanks.
So that current, where you see that makeshift road is 100% fully on the landowner's land in Southeast, which isn't, it isn't a provincial road allowance, it isn't, it's not defined as a road, it's a part of their property, which they've allowed for their own access as well as the leased land that they gave the oil and gas developer.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you need the applicant presentation, or I think it's short? Oh, sorry. Thanks. Now we go to the applicant presentation, 20 minutes. Are they here? Yes. Good morning.
Good morning. This piece of property that road allowance in question, we've leased for over 15 years so that we could have access into the other quarter, because we're unable to get to that northwest of 16 unless we cross there. The road to go north from there would end halfway down to Beaver River Hill. So like was mentioned before, with the big ravine, they'll never develop that part of the road. Same with going south from there, huge expense. This access on the southeast of 20 is already existing there. It's a high-grade road going in. So it's just that section in between that we're looking to purchase so that it is into that quarter, so that there is access to it permanently. We've been in the area 40 years. We just want to retire here, you know. So yes, that's what we're looking to purchase that, so that we have an access in there, so that we can go on, you know. We've been, like I say, in the community for a large number of years. We've had businesses, we've volunteered, donated time, money to charities in the area. So yes, we're here today to see if we can go ahead with this.
Okay, thank you. Would
Okay.
you like to speak, ma'am? Any, we're allowed to ask some questions or clarity and stuff? No? No questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Reeve, I've got questions for admin then. Am I allowed to ask that?
Do we have to go to against now, or, yeah? Sorry?
You should.
What?
Do I get to,
Yep.
okay, I'm just going to announce I live on I did live full-time on the northwest quarter of Section 17. And in any event, I've got two major problems with this, and the real major problem is the fact that it's a wildlife corridor through there, and the beaver. My granddad was the first pioneer, first homesteader, the second homesteader in the area, and there were 3 beaver dams abandoned on the property on his original homestead, and they were always hoping the beavers would come back, and in the late 1970s, or sort of about the 1990s, there was a beaver dam built on the northeast quarter, which for whatever reason, it was a highly successful dam with being fed by a spring that runs year-round, and they abandoned it for whatever reason, or were trapped out, I don't know which, but in any event, we have serious problems with the situation in the world right now with wildlife not being protected enough, and we've got the Beaver River dropping to a trickle practically last summer, and I am predicting it could happen again this summer. It probably will happen again this summer. And I should add, I'm not boasting, but I did attend a forestry school at Hinton, Alberta, and graduated in 1967, I believe it was. I was at the top of the class with two other fellows, and well, 8 of us ended up working on forest research for the Federal Department of Forestry in Calgary, and I was on watershed research I was working on, but there was 8 of us that were working there. Within a couple of years, we decided that the process we were in was not productive or didn't have a lot of meaning at the time. So I ventured on to other work. In any event, the beaver situation, and it's called the Beaver River for a good reason. The entire, it's involved with the whole system, which is the Sandy and the Churchill and the Crooked Creek and the Moose Creek and other small creeks. And anyway, this is a wildlife corridor, and the wildlife will come down the Sandy River particularly because it's a remote area and there's not many inhabitants up in that area. And I used to fish, when I was a teenager, I used to fish in the Beaver River down in that area, and you'd see tracks and you'd see wildlife that you never see anywhere else traveling along the river because that's a corridor for them. It's like a highway for them, and every beaver dam would be like a village for the wildlife, the ducks and the geese and the otters and everything. And that has pretty much disappeared, and we're suffering the consequences. And anyway, that building in that area would put these people right in the heart of this corridor, and I was just hoping that with a history of running a trap line and stuff that they were not planning on engaging in eliminating more wildlife, particularly from that area. So that's my major concern because we're heading for some climate problems. I'm pretty sure that I will probably bet money that this summer we're going to get another heat wave that may well alter our lifestyle in this, considering last year in Saskatchewan there were areas that were so dry that there was nothing green left, and there was millions of grasshoppers that were starving, and they wound up nibbling away at wooden fence posts in an attempt to survive. So I'm afraid, I hate to say it, I think we're going to face more of that. And my other concern is that my father and the neighbor to the south, Fred Sitter, they donated this access road to that quarter we're discussing. This was the southeast of 616, I guess it is, or sorry, the southwest of 16. No, it was the southeast of 16. I'm thinking about. Anyway, the original road allowance, which naturally appears a mile apart from the other one to the west, well, that had too many ravines to cross over, and they didn't build it, of course, which would have been unnecessary at the time. Well, tillers were living in that quarter, and they had no access except for a trail. And my dad and the neighbor to the south, they donated this land to allow that access road a half mile long that allowed them access to their quarter. So there is access to that quarter. And then from that quarter, they can cut through the corner there and get into the quarter in question. And,
excuse me, sir. You've run out of time. Do you have a final point? Like just
okay, I'm just saying that I understand that original donation of that land for that access road meant that the land to the east, which was not converted into a roadway, would become part of that quarter.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. thank you.
Yeah. Where are we at, Stephanie? Applicant rebuttal? Yes? Does the applicant have rebuttal to this? I think you have 10 minutes, sir.
As far as a wildlife corridor, the wildlife corridor is still there. We own 7 quarters right there, basically, in that area. On all of the steel gates are all locked. They all have signs, no hunting, no trespassing. So as far as that wildlife corridor and the wildlife, they're still going to be in there. And I'm probably one of the people that like to watch the wildlife the most. I fix a lot of fences because of the deer and the moose going through. I'm okay with that. I do like to see the wildlife. And I think there's not going to be a change or any damage to the wildlife that's going to be going through that area because the gates are still closed, the gates are still locked, and the animals will still go through that whole corridor. And my opinion, I don't see where any of this is going to negative impact to the animals or anybody in the area. And the road, yes, it was a forest road half a mile down there so people could get to the southeast of 20. So now that there is a road and I can get access to another quarter that I haven't been able to get access to, means a lot. So I thank you for your time and everything, and I'll let you guys decide.
Okay, thank you. So, council, do we have any final questions for administration?
Yeah, I do, Mr. Reeve.
Okay.
So right now, we're just talking about the sale and closure of this road allowance, but I'm still, I guess, missing the point of closing that. So questions, I guess, they plan on, in that red area, the bigger red area, they plan on building a home. Was that the deal? And they need access to that? And right now, do they access that area from 623? Is that how they get
Through the
there?
Reeve, currently, they, at the bottom of the portion of the road allowance, the southernmost part of that road allowance is approximately where they would like to build their home, within the northwest quarter.
So you're talking about you're talking about 484 though, the north-south road allowance, the range road?
Correct. That is the only road allowance that we are closing and proposing to sell.
And so they access that from the north then on 484? You can drive down there, that's a good road?
Through the
down?
Reeve, no, they access it currently in the Forest Road coming off of, where it lines up with 623.
623?
Correct. So you'll see in this specific map, there is a large portion in red. The portion that's within the southeast quarter is already their land. What we're doing, and which will be a subsequent subdivision, is that large portion, which is already a part of the southeast quarter, will be subdivided off to themselves and then combined with that portion of the road allowance, which we are, which they have applied to purchase from us and close. So that whole red area will be subdivided off, including the provincial road allowance.
Okay, so right now then, the gentleman mentioned that he's been leasing, I guess, 484? The north-south one? He's been leasing that road allowance? He said he's been leasing it for
The north
15
and south.
years.
The north-south road.
I believe so. I'm not sure.
And he said there's locked gates on it, and I mean, that's one thing that tweaked me. If people wanted to come from the north and go down on quads or whatever, they'd have to go through locked gates, which we don't allow, but we're gonna sell that, so then, yeah, for sure, no one could ever go through there again because he can lock gates and keep people out totally.
So currently, through the reef, having been to the site, there is a gate coming off of 623 onto his quarter section in the southeast where that forest road is. So that is gated. Perhaps that was the gate he was referring to, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure which one he's referring to, but like Councillor Kirk had brought up the north-south one, and if people wanted to, you know, quad down that way, I'm not sure if they do or not. I guess I'll just make the point that I kind of think leasing is better if you're going to close a road allowance forever. But if they're not willing to lease, I guess that's the issue, or they're not willing to carry on leasing, I guess is the issue, because they want to buy it. But can you clarify for me a forest road allowance? The province of Alberta owns all the road allowances. Is 623 then, you're saying it's not it's forest, but
Mr. If I should clarify. So the forest road is off of the main road, Township Road 623. The forest road stops at the red box. There is no forest road past the red box.
That ain't, it's just an old oil.
And that old road that is there was a CNRL road.
Yes.
That was on the quarter section.
Yes.
That's owned by the applicant. So that 623, the forest road that we keep speaking about, is actually.
It ends right there.
It ends right
on the
there
left
at the red
side,
box.
on the cross.
Exactly.
But
This
so-
whole piece in red, with the exception of the north-south piece on 44, is just indicating to council what would be subdivided in the event that the southeast 20 was ever sold, that would always guarantee
Access.
the applicant access to that northwest 16.
Pretty hard to build a house there without
So
total
they have
access.
they have to have the access.
But
So
that
the
was my
only
question, Mr. Reed, or
the only
Mr. CEO.
portion we're talking about today is that 100 meters north and south of what would be the imaginary extension line of 623.
Mr. CEO, that was my question though, so you kind of partially answered that one. A forest road, so 623 stops, like you said, at the end of that
Yes.
red. But how did the MD ever put a forest road in on 623 if the province doesn't own road allowances? I'm just saying, could we have actually forced that road all the way down to the far east of that quarter?
I guess the answer to the question is in the terminology forest road. I guess if the council of the day had determined and was able to come to a deal with the landowners, we've built lots of forest roads over the years. They could have put a forest road in. My guess is, looking at the map and having some knowledge of the area around there, is that road was probably given so that there was access to Southeast 20 and to the quarter section to the south of it. Without that, all of these quarters would have been landlocked.
You can't get
Okay,
that.
So that would have been the reason. There is a gate at the end of 623 at the beginning of the red, because that's now on the applicant's property.
Okay, so you just tweaked me here though, Mr. CEO. When you said we could have negotiated with the landowners, but again, I'm just asking this question. Does the province actually own road allowances, and do they own forced road allowances? Do they own every road allowance in the province? And you're just saying no because we had to buy that we would have had to buy
It wasn't,
that road allowance.
so 623 was never a road allowance. We forced the road through there by purchasing the land and building a road.
So we had to buy, land
Yes,
from
we'd have,
residents
if we
for road
forced the road
allowances?
today, we'd have to buy the land from the landowner. We'd have to negotiate a deal with the landowner to force that road. That's why they're called forced roads.
Thank you.
Councillor Scarson, then Councillor Crick.
Yeah, I have two questions. So one, just so the leg that kind of goes to the south there, that the bottom 87 meters, so that was subdivided into there, that wouldn't be a problem like in the future, because it's kind of technically the south quarter. You know what I mean? Like, is that going to be an issue?
But that's a road allowance, right?
No, but
Through the reeve, the portion of the road allowance that we're discussing, that south portion, that 87, that road allowance would be integrated into that northwest quarter.
okay, so it wouldn't be all the red together then.
The subdivision portion of the southeast quarter would also be integrated in that for them. It'll be a separate subdivision piece, but they'll own now that southeast quarter and that northwest quarter. So that piece is just kind of tying them together. Because at the end of the day, the purpose of that south piece is to give them a driveway.
I understand, but I'm saying though that sometime down the road, they want to sell the south quarter, but it's missing a little chunk out of the one corner. Is that how it would work?
Through the Reeves, so what will happen is, how to make this continue through is they would have to sign, for an example, an easement agreement with themselves for that subdivision piece, this future subdivision piece in the red, with themselves for the northwest quarter. So because you have an easement that allows the owner of the northwest quarter to continue to have access to the road all the way across the southeast quarter, because we have to keep that road access open. Even if they decided to sell the northwest quarter, the easement agreement that will exist on that subdivided property will always give them that road access.
Yeah, it just seems like it should be 2 subdivisions there, but anyways, second one is, so why just that portion? Why not the whole, like, is that a whole road allowance all the way up and down that quarter? Like, why not the whole?
Through the Reeve, yes, it is. That is all they require in order to access that property.
So we would have the road allowance all the way through except for that small little portion?
That is correct.
Yeah, that doesn't really make sense to me either. I mean, why cut it off? Why not just do it all as one, if that's the case? Like, what's the why have a road allowance there then if we don't own a little tiny chunk in the middle of it?
Through the Reeve, that would, the only reason I can possibly come up with is just to allow provincial public access to the remaining parts, wildlife, sightseeing, whatever people use those road allowances for. Currently, it is highly treed, and the quarter in the northeast quarter is farmed, and I believe the southeast quarter is farmed. Everything else, as you can see in this property, is treed and wild.
Councilor Craig?
Yeah. So I think it's a great idea for them to build a house down there and have access to their quarter. My only concern is that we're selling a road allowance, and like I said, if somebody wants to hike through there or quad through there, in these different quarter sections, even though they're all owned by the same person right now, they could be sold in 10, 20 years from now, all to different people. And people may want to build a walk or quad through there, have access to there, even if we're not building an actual road through there because of the ravine. So I'm wondering if we can approve the subdivision on the southeast 2062. They can own that part where the gas lease or oil lease road was. But the road allowance, I don't see why they have to personally own that, why it can't be road allowance that they can have full access to put gravel on it and drive on it and have access to their property that way.
Through the Reeve, if they went down the road of leasing the road allowance,
Yeah.
it's not an indefinite type of agreement that we enter into with them. So there's always that potential that the municipality, for whatever reason, could decide to end that lease. So it's not a permanent fix for a landowner. I would have to look into it as well to see if leased road allowance would qualify as road access, or if they do need to own that property.
So then the road that I drive down to get to my house every day, is that not a road allowance, or is that considered a road, or what's the difference there? Because I have full confidence that I'll always have access to my house. I'm not worried about anybody, the MD, taking over the road and closing it. I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything either, just wondering like what's the difference with this one as opposed to the road I drive on.
Developed to undeveloped.
Okay.
Yours is a developed road allowance.
So we essentially, if they develop that section and that it's about 150 meters or 170 meters, it could be a developed road allowance?
So through council, the issue would then be would we be building a road on 484 north of their property? Because then that would create a developed road allowance. I wouldn't even hazard a guess as to what that would cost. And then there's still, where they would like to build their home is still on the northwest portion of Northwest 16. So that's why they needed 100 meters south of there. So even if you built to the extension of Township Road 623, you've still left them in a place where they still technically have no access. They're 100 meters shy of access to where they would want to build their home. So if the MD is interested in developing that road allowance, then that would be a different story, but that development would go quite a ways because the next road would be up to 624. So it'd be asked to build, somebody would have to build almost a mile of road to call it a developed road allowance.
I don't see why we can't just have a short section in the middle of nowhere, essentially, of developed road allowance, though. Unless I don't understand the rules, which is quite possible.
When you say a short section of developed road,
if you look at the screen in the yellow, if you look at the screen up where it's yellow there,
Yep.
essentially the landowner is going to want to drive on that to get to their house, I'm imagining. So if the MD develops that very short section of road, it can be developed to a single lane, then it's a developed road, and then they never have to worry about it being closed.
so we would have to go through private property or through an undeveloped road to plow that. The moment we create that as a developed road, we now have the obligation to maintain it. Because that's private property. All of that to the west in the red box is all private property.
Red block.
And the reason for the funny little,
Yeah, I see what you're
the funny little paddle at the east end is that's already where that road that CNRL built is. That's why it's got that funny little jog. Because that road, and I've been on that road is actually, it's a good driveway. So that's the only reason why the applicant is looking to be 100 meters north, is because that road doesn't go straight through. So we're just trying to follow what's currently existing.
We need one of those laser things, so if you can come around here and you could, on certain things like this, and then you could actually just, it'd be a lot easier for us at council to, because we're kind of guessing.
Cursor, doesn't it?
Okay, Deputy Reeve Fadeev, and then Councillor Swigert.
So basically what we're trying to do is we're just trying to, I guess, align or do a correction on this corridor to absorb it into the actual corridor where it was, correct? Because 623 going east is not really a road or a forest
Through
road.
the Reeve,
It's
that
just
is
a lease
correct.
road.
Everything that you see in the southeast quarter is not a road, it is not a forest road.
Correct, so now
Township 623.
stops there at
ends
the red line.
Right where the red line is. So
So now-
623 ends here. So from this portion forward, all of this belongs to Southeast 20. Our subsequent subdivision request will be to take this portion out of Southeast 20 and integrate it into the northwest here, which happens to be the same landowner.
Right.
And then in here, their property, their residence will be developed in this area. However, this is the only road access that's available to this quarter section down here.
And then, so that road access will be part of their property, and they would maintain their road access.
That's correct.
And all they want is access to that. So basically, we're absorbing the road allowance that is there now into the quarter that is there previous, that they own already, correct?
Through the Reeve, it's actually going to be 3 pieces of land. So there's going to be this southeast quarter here, which they'll own.
Yeah.
There'll be this subdivided off piece, which they own.
Yeah.
And then this quarter down here, which they own.
So is it like, I know this is beyond this, but so is there no way for them to reabsorb those 9 acres back into the actual quarter? Because you're not really subdividing, it was subdivided in the past.
So through the chair, to Councillor Fadeev, the reason for the subdivision is just to guarantee permanent access to that quarter.
Yeah.
If they didn't subdivide it and it was reabsorbed, then if that Southeast 20 was ever sold, then they would once again be landlocked because of future owner of that. So this guarantees access. So it essentially, that 9 acres essentially becomes just a half-mile long driveway.
Makes perfect sense. Thank you very much.
And also, the only road allowance we're talking about is the north-south portion. The rest, we got to get that out of our heads. There's no forest or nothing. The forest ends at the cross there at 623, and the only road allowance we're looking at is 484, I believe, right? Okay, Councillor Swigert.
Sorry to beat this one up, but if they didn't own the road allowance, And if they didn't lease the road allowance, it's still a it's still a public road allowance, so they have as much right to use it as anybody. So
Through
what's
the REIT,
what's
they
the
would
issue?
not be allowed to develop it because it's owned by the province.
They wouldn't be allowed to develop their land, you mean, or the
They
road allowance?
wouldn't be allowed to develop this into a driveway. The road allowance?
But why would they have to develop a road allowance as a driveway? It would just be a road allowance like everybody else's road allowance.
Through
Just
the
drive
REIT.
down it.
The issue would be in building a home, because you have to have legal access to the residents for power, gas, et cetera, et cetera. Without, the driveway creates the legal access for them off of 623.
But the legal access is the road allowance, though.
But it's an undeveloped road allowance. An
I know,
undeveloped
but-
road allowance
I know,
is
but
not
we're
considered legal
developing it.
access.
We're not developing it for them. All we're gonna do is sell it. As Councillor Crick said, then no one can have access down that road allowance. So
Correct.
just like clarify for me, if we don't sell the road allowance to them, what difference does it make to them? Why can they not use a road allowance?
It's an undeveloped road allowance. I guess I thought I'd said this earlier. It's an undeveloped road allowance. You cannot, they're going to have a significant difficulty through the Planning and Development Department to get a building permit to build a home that has no legal access. It has no legal access because it's on an undeveloped road allowance. It's trees, bush, that's just like, so we'd approve anybody anywhere in the MD who's off of an undeveloped road allowance to build a home, even though that quarter section would have no legal access. By selling them, by subdividing and closing the road allowance, that gives them legal access, because that will eventually become part of their property, which will attach to Township Road 623, which gives them legal access. It gives them a place where a bus could come, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, so that Township Road 623 and that if we sell them that will allow like buses to access from 623 across and blah, blah, blah?
So what would end up happening, let's assume for a moment that this was all approved and we're years down the road, and somebody purchased that property, maybe the applicant sold, and the new owners had kids. The bus could go down 623 and pick the kids up at the end of the driveway.
It'll be a long driveway.
It's a half-mile driveway.
And then it would hit the old road allowance that we don't own no more,
That's right.
if we sold it.
But so, Mr. Diego, in your opinion, though, that's gives them good access?
Oh, that road in particular, the old CNRL road that runs at half, that road, yeah, that's, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that road. That was a well-used oil field road to that well site just to the north. And, but it's private driveways, however anybody wants to look after their private driveway. The other issue that we have is in terms of emergency vehicles. Without legal access, it's hard to get a building permit, probably hard to get insurance, because how does a fire truck? Now with this, if this all went through the way it's currently been applied for, fire truck could get right to the house.
All right, any other questions, gentlemen? No, seeing none, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I need probably a motion to close, I need a motion to close the hearing then. Thank you, Deputy Reeve Fidel, all in favor? Carried. I think I need a 5-minute break again, so we're gonna take a 5-minute break. Yeah.
And through the read, just so for council's awareness, council passed first reading. We'll now send out.
We're going to 922, welcome back.
Okay.
Yep, go ahead, Matt.
Okay, the next is
Mr.
the
Yance.
appointment of Agricultural Service Board Appeal Panel. As required by the province of Alberta, council is required to approve the appointment of appeal panel generated through the Agricultural Service Board on an annual basis. The appeal panel shall hear and determine the appeal within 5 days of receipt of a notice of appeal. The appeal panel may confirm, rescind, or vary the notice. So today I'm bringing forward 6 names to sit on that appeal panel. They've all been there previously before. They know good agricultural practices.
All right, thank you. Yeah, what, just 1 second, Ben? Yeah. Thank you, Esther. Okay, go ahead, Deputy Reeve.
So this is, like, do we get these a lot, these appeals at all? No, it's just,
No. So with the Ag Service Board Act, we have to have an appeal panel appointed yearly, annually. But no, we've never had to have an appeal to date.
so is that something that happens in our area, like in I guess neighboring municipalities where we had
Yeah.
the, damn. Anyways, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the subdivision.
Yeah, so where they had to
appeal
till
board.
the ground.
So through the Reeve, yes, it's similar to the subdivision appeal board where they do have other municipalities that help sit on it. In the Ag Service Board Act, we can appoint the appeal panel right from residents that live within the municipality. I don't foresee that we'll have any problems, but just in case we do have a weed notice or a pest notice and that we do get challenged, that they will come to this appeal board.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, looking for a motion? Oh, sorry.
I make a motion that we approve.
Okay.
Pass this.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Councillor Sipchik makes a motion on behalf of council that council approves appointing the following individuals to the appeal panel as recommended by Agricultural Service Board to act on behalf of the Alberta Pest Control Act, Alberta Weeds Control Act, and Alberta Soil Conservation Act. And we're going to appoint Guy Bonneau, Robert Chalou, Alf Hurd, Elisa Krawczyk, Forrest Persley, and Greg Schmier. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. 723, oh, sorry, 923, sorry about that, man.
Okay, so next is the appointment of the pest inspectors for the 2022 season. Also required by the province of Alberta, council is required to approve the appointment of pest control inspectors, enforce the Alberta Pest Control Act within the municipal district of Bonnyville for the 22 season. So this year we have two names brought forward. We have a seasonal employee, Brad Pelham, also Bowen Clausen. He would like to keep his credentials, still working with the MD of Bonnyville, so we've added his name to this list and a few other ones also.
Okay, thank you. Need a motion? Councillor
Yeah,
Swigert?
Mr. Reed, it's not a motion, just a question.
Sure.
Is Bowen Clausen our Bowen Clausen?
Yes.
So I'm just curious, like, what's the work involved? Is, I mean, if he's busy doing things, like, is he going to be called out?
No, we have, through the Reeve, we have many qualified people, including myself, that will go out on first call. Bowen is just wanting to keep his credentials on the Ag Services side. He did, his previous employment did have all of these designations, so he asked to be included on these acts.
Thanks. You okay?
Yeah, I'm just, you haven't made me feel really comfortable about this one, because it'd be like, I don't know, is he, if he's not going to get involved at all, but because he's doing other things, I'm not sure, is there another way for him to keep his credentials without being appointed? I don't know, it just doesn't seem smart to me, but you guys have made the decisions, I think, so you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I have no problem with him. He's been doing that job for over 10 years, has all the knowledge that any of our other inspectors. I have no problem in his capabilities. Will he use it on a day-to-day basis? I don't think so, but if need be and we need him to help out, he would be able to help out.
Okay, well, thanks for that.
Okay, Councillor Crick?
Yeah, I was just going to make the motion that we approve this.
Okay. All right, thank you, Councillor Crick, for making the motion on behalf of council that council approves appointing the following pest inspectors for the 2022 season to enforce the Alberta Pest Control Act as required by the province of Alberta, and they are Brad Pelham and Bowen Clausen. Any discussion on this motion?
I'll just make a comment that what previous Councillor Skirt said. Well, just having Bowen even on there as an advisory with his past experience will be beneficial, so I'm looking forward to keeping him on there.
All right, any other discussion? Okay, I'd like to call the vote. Okay, carried. On to 924.
Okay, so 924, the appointment of the weed inspectors for the 2022 season. As required by the province of Alberta, council is required to approve the appointment of weed inspectors to enforce the Alberta Weed Control Act within the MD Bonnyville for the 22 season. So the list here is all the seasonal staff that are out doing the weed inspections and also doing the mowing in subdivisions. So if they are out in any of the subdivisions doing the mowing, they can also enter upon land to inspect.
Okay, thank you. Looking for a motion? Okay, thank you. Councillor Kraviak for making a motion on behalf of council that council approves appointing the following weed inspectors for the 2022 season to enforce Weed Control Act as required by the province of Alberta. We have a Brooks Strepachenko, Jacqueline Littleco, Odette Gagne, Tyler Pratch, Nathan Corviette, Dakota Kendall, Clayton Kendall, and Bowen Clausen. Any discussion on this? Okay, I'd like to call the vote then. Carried. Thank you. 925.
Okay, so next is the Veterinary Service Incorporation Program. So this was came from the last Ag Service Board meeting. The MD Bonnyville joined the VSI program December 2005 to ensure we retain large animal vets within our region, and has it been a challenge with many rural municipalities. With fiscal restraints that occurred in 2021, there was an annual cap of $1,000 per user. Our annual contribution to the program was reduced from $130,000 in 2021 to $100,000. So with that cap, we did see the capping of the VSI program proved to be an administrative challenge, resulting in 25 producers exceeding the cap in a cumulative amount of $5,622.89. At the April 8th ASB meeting, the board made a motion to recommend to council that the $5,622.89 be waived and not be billed back to the producer. In the 22 budget, council adopted to increase the VSI budget back to its previous $130,000 levels. So.
Okay, thank you. I'm just looking for a motion. Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Slipchuk.
Yeah, I got a question.
Sure.
The question is the increase, was it due to increased users, or is it because of increased user fees being towards them?
Increase, so what we've seen in 2021 VSI program, actually the same fees were charged from the 2020 year. Where we've seen the increase are the $5,000. We did send a letter to all the producers at the start of 2021 saying that there is a cap of $1,000. So anytime that the producer went over that cap, we put them on a list that producers weren't allowed to charge through the VSI program. So with those 25 producers, they totaled amount of that $5,600. So what the ASB is asking, instead of us sending out invoices to those 25 producers, and it could have been some producers for $200, some a little bit more, to waive those fees, not to send out those invoices. Overall, we would have, if in 2021, if we would have had the $130,000 budget, we would have stayed within budget, and it would have been similar to 2020 or what we predict in 2022. So all what the Ag Service Board is asking today is that we don't charge back to those 25 producers that $5,600. So but there is a couple options for council to look at.
I make a motion that we go forward and approve this.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Sipchik, on making a motion on behalf of council that council approves the unbudgeted expenditures for veterinarian service, the VSI program, cost coverage, overages of the amount of $5,622.89, and recommended by the ASB board to be funded from the 2022 ASB budget. Any discussion? Yeah, Councillor. Sorry, Deputy Reeve Fadeev.
Yeah, Mr. Yance, just a quick question in regards to when somebody brings it into the vet and they know there's a $1,000 cap, why doesn't the clinic at that time pick up or deal with the producer directly and say, you only cover for $1,000.
Yep.
There's a $200 bill outstanding. You need to pay me the $200, and then kind of go from there. Just very similar to an insurance plan that's out there.
So through the Reeve to Councillor Fade. So yeah, this is where it comes a little confusing because we do have multiple clinics, and how they bill the VSI program to our VSI administrator is quarterly. So every 3 months. So during that 3-month period, there could have been, Farmer A could have had many procedures and already went past that cap limit. So once we get our quarterly reports, we went through them right quickly. If we seen a producer that had already gone over that $1,000 limit, it was too late. We did send letters out to the clinics, making sure like Farmer A is now over that $1,000 cap, so no more charges on our VSI program. Which did happen. It's and that's why it's probably only $5,000 that it's over, because we did cap some producers, and towards the end of the year they weren't no longer allowed to charge on that. So if that's kind of how it come very cumbersome and very administrative heavy.
Okay, any other discussion on this motion? I'll just call to the vote then. Okay, carried. 926.
Okay, I'll call on Charlene.
Okay,
for the
thank you.
Presentation.
Yep.
So this RFD was drafted for the Public Safety Department. It has 2 vehicles up for replacement in the fiscal budget of 2022. These vehicles are Unit 21750. It's a 2018 Ford Explorer Interceptor. It has 2,900, or sorry, is that right? Yeah, 2,995, 116 kilometers. It does have funds in the ERP of 80,158. 20740 is also a 2016 Ford Explorer. It has 330, sorry, I'm having problems today with my numbers, obviously. 305,000 kilometers, and it has funds of 82,788 in the ERP. Administration is seeking council's approval to move forward with these purchases. There was a recent change by administration that saw the life expectancy of vehicles increase to 250,000 kilometers prior to decommission unless repairs or upkeep made and earlier retirement necessary. In both cases, our retiring vehicles are well over the target 250,000 kilometers, and both are certainly in need of replacement. We have obtained 3 quotes from local suppliers and have found the quote from Ford to be the lowest price quote that met our spec requirements. The quote for the 2022 Ford Explorer Interceptor came in at $51,944.81, including GST, and would see the replacement vehicle on site in September. Unfortunately, the second vehicle will be delayed until at least December and may end up being a 2023. Should this be the case, Ford has advised us to budget for an extra $2,500 to $5,000 increase in the vehicle cost. Following the arrival of the new vehicle, they would have to be prepared for duty with the full fit-up of emergency equipment. In some cases, the equipment from the older vehicle can be switched over, while in other cases, it makes more sense to procure new equipment due to the technology changes, vehicle design changes, or sell, and retiring vehicle completely equipped and functional to another law enforcement agency, which helps reduce our decommissioning costs. In these two cases, the fit-up cost of equipment installed in our patrol vehicles has been quoted at $28,000 for each vehicle. The 2022 Ford Interceptor is $51,944, plus the 28,000 would be $79,944. And then the Ford Interception for the 2023 is $56,944. That's incurring the extra cost that we've been told to add to the vehicles, would be $84,944. Counting for the worst-case scenario in terms of availability and cost, the total for both vehicle replacement is coming out as $164,889.62, which is $1,943.62 over the allotted ERP. It is under the cost and source of funding through the ERP. We want to note that it is entirely possible that the replacement will come in under budget. Again, these figures are based on the worst-case scenario.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Councillor Swager?
Yeah, I just had a quick question about the sale value of those cars when you sell them. Do we sell them or auction them, or what happens with them?
Based on the amount of kilometers on the vehicle, based on the amount of kilometers on the vehicle right now, we'll get a very low resale. Plus, in order to resell this vehicle, we have to completely decommission them as a police vehicle, and that is a cost as well to decommission, which does go to the cost of that unit.
Councillor Slipchak, then.
Do we, on these used vehicles, do we reach out to other communities possibly that may be interested in even in them? And this way we don't have to waste money on decommission, and then we are helping other communities maybe with an emergency vehicle that they could utilize?
Through the Reeve, due to the amount of kilometers on these vehicles, a lot of other communities will refuse to actually buy them. I can put the notion out there to actually sell them, but the fact that we would get even the equipment cost is very rare.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. If council remembers, only several months ago, we had, I think it was one, maybe two vehicles that had a lot lower, and the Director of Public Safety was able to find homes for those vehicles outside. These are higher mileage units. They'd likely go to auction, and we probably wouldn't see much from them, but they'd certainly be disposed of to get what we could out of them.
Councillor Scarson?
Does the Ducharmes equip them all? Like, do they do the transfer and put all the equipment on? Or who does that?
Through the Reeve to Councillor Scarson. We do order the vehicle as an Interceptor, so it does come as a base model and ready for setup. Unfortunately, there is no company in the area that does the setup of a police model unit. We do go through, we did outsource 2 different companies to get quotes for the equipment and for the install. Unfortunately, none of them are in this area, and they're both out of Edmonton.
So I'm just curious, like, you say you're asking us to approve $164,000 to Ducharme Motors, so they're doing everything though? Is that what you're saying?
No, the $164,000 is just for the purchase of the 2 vehicles and the upfit. It isn't just for the vehicle purchase.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm saying who is installing it all? Who's installing all the equipment?
Megatech out of Edmonton.
Okay, so $164,000 to cover the entire cost? Or
That's
to
to
Ducharme?
cover.
You're going through Ducharmes to do it?
Just for the cost of the vehicles, and Megatech will be the $28,000 per vehicle for the upfit.
Okay, well, I mean, yeah, I don't know if it matters or not, that's not what you're asking for, but, right, so. Do you understand what I'm saying, or no? Yeah?
I do. The $164,000 does not go directly to Ducharmes. The only thing that goes to Ducharmes is the cost of each vehicle, which would be the $51,944 and then the $56,944 for the 2023.
Like 110,000 will go to Ducharmes, or a little more than that, eh, Mike?
Yeah.
And then the 28 double will go to that place in the city to equip them.
You gotta start asking Counselor Crick.
He's our new math guy? Okay. Did that help you, Doris, or no?
Well, I'm just curious if you need us, I mean, it's probably, I'm probably overthinking it, but it says 164,000 for Ducharme motors too, but it's not the case, right? So you need another 50,000 to Megatech or whatever you said there.
No, the whole cost is 164,000 for both vehicles, for the buy the vehicles and for Megatech outfit. There is no overcost on that.
Mr. Reeve, if I,
Yeah.
I think
I know what he's getting at.
Yeah, I think I understand the.
It's in the motion.
Yeah, it's in the motion that the purchase of 2 Ford Interceptors from Ducharme Motors in the amount of 164,889.62. I would suggest that the council give some consideration to a slightly different motion, that the purchase of 2 Ford Interceptor SUVs in the amount, either just remove the words Ducharme Motors, knowing that's where we're buying them from, or we add the price of the the price of the vehicles, and then add the 56,000 to Megatech, and add that into the motion. Either drop the one or add the other.
Yeah.
I understand the,
Yeah, no,
I understand the question.
Once I read that, it's, yeah, I get what you're saying, Doris. So we'll fix that.
Yeah, Mr. The motion could be 164,000 and then minus the 56,000 to Ducharme. That's what will go to Ducharme, the 164 minus the 56.
That would be the easiest thing, is just, yeah.
Mr. Reeve, if you just bear with us, we're just confirming with corporate services what they need in the motion to proceed.
Yeah,
with
no,
the
we got
purchase.
time.
They're gonna. And through the Reeve, I just would point out that it's highly unlikely these will come in over budget. I noticed in the notes that these prices on the vehicles included GST. We don't typically tender with GST, we get the GST back, so in actual fact, we're probably about $5,500 in GST coming back, which would put this, we're actually already $3,000 under budget when we remove the GST. So.
Okay, thank you for that information.
I'm sure everything will go up in price again before they get here.
Mr. Reeve, just to clarify, so it looks like we've removed the approval of an unbudgeted expenditure, like the CAO said, because the prices include GST. It's actually under budget, so there is no unbudgeted expenditure.
Okay, so we don't need the motion at all then?
We will need a motion, it's a fleet vehicle purchase, which requires council motion.
So this is our revised recommended action.
This is our revised right here?
Yes.
Okay, just looking for a motion then. Or did someone make, no one made, yeah, go ahead. Okay. Okay, thank you. Councillor Subchicki makes a motion on behalf of council that council approves the purchase of 2 Ford Interceptor SUVs in the amount of $164,889.62 to be funded from the 2022 capital budget. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in, call to the vote. And good catch there, Darcy. Carried. Thank you. 9.3, Planning and Community Services, 9.3.1.
Good morning, Mr. Reeve and Council.
Morning.
So this is the Kinnessoo Ridge Business and Destination Management Plan that we had discussed and presented at the Committee of the Whole. So as part of the MD of Bonnyville's 2020 and 2021 Regional Economic Development Initiative project, partly funded through the Alberta CARES grant, administration contracted project consultants Legacy Tourism Group through a publicly advertised RFP process to develop a Kinnessoo Ridge Business and Destination Management Plan. During the April 20th, 2022 committee meeting of Council, the Kinnessoo Ridge Business and Destination Management Plan was presented and reviewed. The committee made the motion that the committee recommends to Council adopting the Kinnessoo Ridge Business and Destination Management Plan as presented. In line with the committee's recommendations, administration is also recommending that the Kinnessoo Ridge Business and Destination Management Plan be adopted and implemented where feasible and as annual budgets allow, thereby directly informing the future development and growth plans of the Kinnessoo Ridge Resort. Administration will prepare a multi-year implementation schedule based on what this document has developed for Council's consideration during the upcoming 2023 municipal budget deliberations. The plan is attached as the appendix, and Council was given that during the committee meeting. Touching on the strategic plan, where it hits on goal number 1, building a prosperous and sustainable community, and also goal number 4, enhancing livability of the community. The costs and sources of funding, the Kinnessoo Ridge Business and Destination Management Plan initiatives, costs, and their implementation timelines will be proposed and considered by Council during their annual budget deliberations. The recommended action is that Council adopts the 2022 Kinnessoo Ridge Business and Destination Management Plan as presented, and furthermore that Council directs administration to prepare a multi-year implementation schedule for Council consideration during the upcoming 2023 municipal budget deliberations.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Reeve Fadeev.
Yeah, it's a pretty comprehensive plan, and I'm glad you gave us time to look at it. What I would like to see, along with this plan, is a corporation owned by the MD versus it being part of the MD. So I know there's a lot of policies that we're always kind of fighting with each other, and you know, we have to be within a certain schedule. We have to be within certain, I guess, safety conforms and everything else, aligning itself with the MD, which might be different than the ski hill. So is that something you guys are looking at, or something that you guys are going to bring back to council as well?
Yeah, through the Reeve, that definitely was the #1 recommendation on a governance model through this plan, and it would be completely up to council in the direction that you'd like to go. If you'd like to see it as move to that kind of governance model, or there's others there, or just simply continue to run under the municipality, that would be up to council.
Yeah, because I know it's I've been hospitality industry for for some time, and it's run different than a government is. We're a government, we have our steps we have to follow, and over there it's just something that as you make you make hay when the sun's shining, is that how it goes? Yeah. So, you know, when everything lines up, you have to give her. So I think it's a little different than what we as a government do. It's just different. And I think I'd like to see it, I think it'd be way more successful if it was run as a corporation.
Yeah, go ahead. Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. To members of council, I think the starting place with that is I would certainly recommend that we bring in somebody like a Dana Young from RMRF or some consultant who can walk council through the process, the pros and cons of an MCC, et cetera, kind of give everybody some education, including myself, on the creation of an MCC, and what that would look like, what council's roles and responsibilities would be. We could certainly set that up for some time during the summer, so that those conversations could be had, and then I think the department had planned to bring back a multi-year, much like our road plan. This is kind of map that out as to what would happen over the next bunch of years. But I think the starting place in terms of the actual corporation itself and what the governance model of Kinnessoo Ridge would look like, I think we all need some education to determine whether that's in the best interest of the municipality, whether it's an MCC, whether we continue operating it through here. I don't think a Part 9 will work. I've looked into the Part 9. Part 9 is a nonprofit, and I don't think that's the long-term goal is to have that as a nonprofit. So I can certainly find someone who is well-versed in that and can walk us through the process and kind of tell us what the future would look like if that was an MCC.
Yeah, I think those are important conversations to have. We might go a different direction, but for sure.
Yeah, good point. All right, just looking for a motion, gentlemen. Yeah.
I guess I'll make the motion of option 1.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Reeve Fideo, for making a motion on behalf of council that council adopts the 2022 Kinnessoo Ridge Business and Destination Management Plan as presented, and furthermore, that council directs administration to prepare a multi-year implementation schedule for council consideration during the upcoming 2023 municipal budget deliberations. Any discussion on this? Okay, seeing none, I just call to the vote.
Yeah, Mr. Reeve. Just a
Yeah,
question.
carried. Thank you. Go
Is
ahead.
this the first time that this plan has been made public? Or has it always been a public document? Like, I haven't wanted to say a lot to folks because it's 160 pages, really glossy, lots of great ideas and stuff there. It's public now because it's in our package. I assume public has access to it.
Was it? Yeah.
Good, because
Yes.
it looks like a great, people are just going to be thrilled about it, right? And Councillor Fideo's comment is important because councils change over the years, and we've had that issue that we tried to produce, an adventure park 2012, 2013, but councils at the time had spent a lot of money on the ski hill, and that got, it did get delayed until now. So I think a different model of management would go forward to make the best possible adventure park, four-season resort for the folks in the entire area. So I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yes. Also, if I may, through the Reeve, thank you for the appointment. That definitely helps with my accreditation. So, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Council.
932 hang in the 30s. Esther? Ms. Conamo?
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. Back on May 11th, 2022, regular meeting of council, a presentation was made to council on behalf of Hang in the 30s Cancer Support Society, requesting $10,000 in funding, as well as an in-kind donation of 30 yards of gravel per year for a 5-year period. Following the presentation, council requested administration to bring this back for further consideration. Attached for council's information is the original delegation presentation, as well as the supporting documents from the Hang in the 30s delegation presentation. Because Hang in the 30s Cancer Support Society operates and hosts their annual events outside of the MD boundaries, they are not eligible to apply for the MD Community Action Grant. Historically, the MD has provided financial support to the organization in the past, in 2017, in the value of $5,000. The cost and source of funding, should council choose to approve the request, would come from the 2022 to 2026 budget, specifically from the council's grants to individuals and non-government organizations. Administration's recommended action is that council approves a contribution in the amount of $10,000 annually to Hang in the 30s Cancer Support Society for 5 consecutive years, effective 2022, to be funded from the grants to individuals and non-government organizations budget, and furthermore that council approves the in-kind support of the provision of 30 yards of gravel for 5 consecutive years, effective 2022. Alternatively, there are some other options for council's consideration below that, which I'll let you review.
Esther, that's my job to mix up words, not yours. I'm looking for a motion. Yeah, Councillor Crick?
Yeah, just a clarification first.
Yep.
So historically, it says the MD's given 5,000 in 2017. Is that the only time we've supported the Hang in 36 historically?
Through the Reeve, due to a switchover in our financials systems, I could only go back as far as, I believe it was 2012, maybe even 2015. I did see, however, in some of our Hang in the 30s files in Parks, Rec and Culture, we have given other things in kind of support.
We made a lot of picnic tables there in kind, yeah. And just the frames, and then I believe they had work bees and they put the lumber on them, and there might have been other things in kind that we did, but yeah. Yes, Councillor Subject.
I'm just curious, what's the 30 yards of gravel per year going to be utilized for?
Unfortunately, in the information provided, it wasn't clarified. However, if council wishes, we could ask one of the representatives.
Sure, she's right here.
Yeah.
The 30 yards of gravel is going to be used in a few different areas. When we bring in new buildings, we do need to do ground prep on it, so that would be our packed material on the bottom, or it will be spread over the site where our walkways and our tourways are for the horses and wagons, for the tractors coming in and out of the area, and whatever. From the town site into Hang in the 30s grounds is paved right now, so it would just be on the grounds themselves that the gravel would go to.
Well, on that note, I'd like to pass this motion.
You want to make the motion? Or
Make a
pass it?
motion. Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, Councillor Slipshire, for passing that motion. No, thank you on behalf of Council for making the motion that Council approves a contribution of the amount of $10,000 annually to Hang in the 30s Cancer Support Society for 5 consecutive years, effective 2022, to be funded from the grants to individuals and non-government organizations budget, and furthermore that Council approves the in-kind support of the provision of 30 yards of gravel for 5 consecutive years, effective 2022. Any discussion on this? Okay, I'm going to call to the vote. Carried, thank you.
Thank you.
94941, 2022 operating capital budget.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
First, I have one change to the Appendix A in the summary of budget changes. Legislative Services has a copy of the appendix, and we have some printed copies for you. Thank you.
Yours or mine? Mine.
So council approved the 2022 operating and capital budget at the regular meeting of council on December 8, 2021. Council also passed the 2022 tax rate bylaw at its regular meeting of council on May 11, 2022. Administration hereby presents the 2022 final operating and capital budget incorporating the tax rate bylaw and unbudgeted expenditures approved to date. I would now like to turn council's attention to Appendix A to go over some of the changes. That's the page that Stephanie has just provided. Thank you. So this listing provides some of the approvals of unbudgeted expenditures by council to date that have now been incorporated into the budget. You'll see on there the Highland River School, the Agriplex renovations, the water pump replacements. All of those were capital expenditures. And then we have the operating expenditures, which is the Economic Development Officer, road material costs, police funding model. All of those have come before council already. You'll see an increase in revenue of $2.3 million. That's specifically due to the tax rate bylaw. I do want to state that this is not an exact amount. As you're aware, most of our assessment is designated industrial property. So as the 305 changes come through from the province where they adjust the assessments, this number could change slightly. We have a municipal internship intern at the MD for which we received a grant of $60,000. Administration is also requesting an increase to expenditures of $650,000 specifically for fuel. Our utilization of fuel has gone up significantly, and the prices, as you're aware, the CAO sent out an email earlier in the year. We did not budget based on the prices that we're seeing at the pumps right now. Legal costs as well. We have an ongoing legal issue that requires more funds. If there's any discussions related to this one, we would have to discuss in camera, but we had to put some funds towards that. And then Kinsu, as we're aware, they've had some operating challenges during the season with hiring staff, and so the wage expenditure compared to budget requires additional funds in the amount of $50,000.
Yeah, so the first two items there, so the fund, it says funding from Recreation Reserve, but those are two separate Recreation Reserve funds though, right? They would then come out of the same fund.
They did come out of the same fund.
No, I thought that the Iron River, there was a different fund that was specific to playgrounds that we used.
They did come out of reserve. I do apologize. I may not remember the exact name. I know it was one that was for playgrounds, but it was funded from a reserve. I could look into that, Councillor Scarson, and get back to you.
Okay.
Was the extra table we got, was the only difference the municipal internship? Was that the only difference?
That was the only difference.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Are the three urbans not paying anything for policing for the ID 349, Mr. CEO?
Thank you through the Reeves, Councilor Kreviak. That letter is ready for the Reeves signature. We have calculated it based on a formula. I don't have it in front of me. I believe Ms. Bartlett was going to have that done for the Reeves signature today. We are asking the other municipalities to pay for the extra assessment and policing on the same formula to which they receive money.
Right.
I believe, round numbers, I believe we'll be asking Cold Lake for about 90,000, the town of Bonnyville about 40,000, the village of Glendon about 10, 12,000, and our portion of that's about 4,100.
Okay, just one more comment. Mr. Reeves, to Councillor Scarson, the Iron River School, did that maybe come from the legacy fund that we had? No?
I don't think so.
Through the Reef to Councillor Scarson and Councillor Kreviak, it came from the Park and School Reserve.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the Agriplex came from the C2 Capital Fund.
Yes.
Right. Can I ask another question? So, so legal costs, human resources, is that the one you said we have to go on camera for?
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
Can I make a motion to go on camera?
Yep. Have a motion to go on camera. We just go all in favor like that? All in favor? Carried, thank you. You're welcome back.
I also My apologies. I have also provided as an appendix to council B, C, and D what the budget looks like right now. A total budget would be $163,290,844. And details are provided for separately for the operating in Appendix C and for the capital budget in Appendix D. And administration's recommendation is that council approves the 2022 final budget.
Okay, thank you. Looking for a motion.
Mr. Reeve, I just had some questions
Okay,
about
go ahead.
Appendix B. I'm sure you're way more familiar with it than I am, but revenue, that's operating and capital budget summaries. And so are those revenues, like just pick one like parks, $8,636,596. Is that actually a revenue for parks, or is that a? They're in brackets, so I'm not sure you're, like when you, if they're in brackets, that's negative, or is that's a positive?
Through the reef to Councillor Swigert, the negative just means that it's revenue. The numbers would be be the same, whether the brackets are in there or not.
Sorry, there's no negatives here, it's just there's brackets. Does brackets mean negative?
The brackets represent negative in accounting.
So, okay, so the revenue for parks
Is it negative 9 million?
is negative. So they never parks doesn't make any money? Like I'm just, maybe it's broken down later somewhere, revenue-wise?
So through the reef to Councillor Swigert, the total revenue, including grants, fee for service, and otherwise, and allocations for capital, perhaps some of those were carried forward from prior years. The total revenue for parks in the 2022 budget is $8.9 million. That is revenue. But it doesn't mean that it's all fee for service. It includes fee for service, grants, and funding from previous years. For example, for the Adventure Park, which consisted of grants, MD dollars, but it was not completed in prior years, so it's carried forward into the 2022 budget.
As a revenue, but it's not a positive, you're saying, it's actually a loss. If it's in brackets, it's a negative, so it's a loss?
No, it's not a loss.
Okay.
Revenue, a loss is the difference between revenue and expenditures. This is specifically revenues, and then when you go towards the end, we have the expenditures as well, which is about approximately 11
million.
Yeah, 82,000.
11.1 million. So the difference between the two of $2 million-ish would be a loss if you were trying to calculate a loss. But our revenues is about just over 8 million, and our expenditures is over 11 million.
Okay, so just to clarify, when you put brackets around something, in your opinion, what does that mean?
Positive.
In the future, we will eliminate the brackets to keep it simple, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Reeve, I was just going to say that if you look at everything under revenue is in brackets, so that means it's a positive, it's revenue, and expenditure is not, so that's a negative.
Any other discussion? Oh, thank you, Deputy Reed.
Yeah, just a comment on the park side. I think our parks are subsidized quite heavily through the MD, so I think we're always losing money.
A little bit. Okay, just looking for a motion then?
Mr. Reeve,
Yep, go ahead.
I had another one there, I'm just trying to find it. You got 5 different appendixes there, so I just wanted to grab, was it the last one? Something to do with, where's the one that's very long? It's salaries and stuff in it, and the numbers look kind of weird, because it was like $7 million in salaries, and I thought, that can't be right. I'm trying to find it, give me a minute here. It's not that one.
Through the reef to Councillor Swaggart, you will not find salaries in this particular report. Everything is presented by function, not by object. So you might be confusing that with the quarterly report.
Oh,
There
sorry,
is no
that's
object
coming
in
up.
the budget.
You're right, that's
just
coming up.
just
Thank you.
functions.
Moving right along the street, thank you.
Okay. Just looking for a motion now, gentlemen. Yes.
Make the motion, Mr. Reeve, to approve this.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kraviak, for making the motion on behalf of council, that council approves the MD of Bonneville 2022 budget of 166,06,0902 as presented. Any discussion on this? Call for the vote. It's way too big of a number.
I couldn't pass it myself, Councillor Slipchuk.
Sure you could. Carried. Lunchtime? Okay, we're going to break for lunch. Thank you, Toulouse, for now.
Thank you.